Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our regular town board meeting. We are live, and I would like to ask everyone, including the board, to make sure that their phones are on vibrate or turned off. We'd greatly appreciate that. And I would like to call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is a moment of silence. If you'll please join us. Thank you. Now if you'll join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now move to staff questions. Board members, do you have any questions of staff at this time? Commissioner Partee?
Thank you, Mayor. I will have a question for our planner, Jack Semino. Is Jack? Good evening, Jack. I have a question regarding Architectural Review Board. It's my understanding that certain townships do have an Architectural Review Board. Why is it that we here in Huntersville do not have the Architectural Review Board? And is it possible that we can develop an Architectural Review Board?
Right, it's a town board decision whether to create one or not. So it's strictly with the town board. I will say that through conditional rezonings, the town board has a lot of leeway on things. If they're not feeling like the architecture makes sense, they can have influence, but it's not a replacement for an architectural review board, but it's solely a decision up for the town board if they want to create one.
Would that entail, if we do decide to create one, appointing those individuals who have the background, as an architectural background or design background?
Yeah, I mean, so you need to establish some rules for them. You don't want to just appoint a group and say, just get us good architecture, right? You want to have some information there for them and what you're shooting for. So it's not just a simple matter of appointing X people and then let them do their work. Then we'll have to blend them into the process for, rezonings and what, even individual building permits. So a lot of projects that this town board doesn't even see. If it's zoned correctly, we're just issuing the permits for it. So, are you going to capture those as well? I presume you would. Once the decision's made, then there's a number of steps to go through, but it's absolutely doable. Our neighbors have them, so it can be done.
Okay. Madam Mayor, can I just ask a question? Is that an issue that we can possibly put on our retreat agenda, Architectural Review Board?
Yes, I'm sure if you'll send that request to Mr. Roberts.
Okay, thank you.
That on the agenda. Commissioner Kidwell.
Mr. Kidwell works too. Mr. Roberts, tonight during my committee report, I'm going to talk, commissioner report, I'm going to talk a little bit about Highway 73, Beatties Ford Road project. Is there any way we could set up a public meeting at the Duke's Water Plant at some point in the near future, preferably with NCDOT there, to really kind of bring everybody up to speed on that? And then also, a while back, I had inquired about the Anchor Mill infrastructure during the passing of the sale of Anchor Mill and the discussions around the buildings that were going into it. I'd asked the question, if I recall back in 2000, was it 14, 15? I think it was 15. The developer was to put in the infrastructure by a certain date, and I wanted to follow up on that and see if that was, if my memory was accurate or if I'm just, thinking of conversations in my head.
Well, I'll follow up on that, but I was in Cornelius at that time in 2014, so I'll need to do a little research and get back with you on that.
Any other questions? Commissioner Kovacs.
I was just going to ask Mr. Roberts if we have an update on new town hall,
Bobby?
or Bobby.
Here he comes.
Bobby.
While he's making it up to this, he may say this, but we will have some new plans and layouts for you at the workshop coming up on the 26th, 27th.
That's essentially what I would have said. We are in the schematic design phase, so they are working through some layouts, some options, and we'll have an update for you at the retreat with a couple of exterior options to look at and give us feedback on, and then we'll move into construction documents.
Do you need me to bring a shovel and start turning dirt for you?
Every little bit helps, that's for sure. But hopefully shortly after that, we probably mid-February are looking at moving into the construction document phase.
Thank you.
Commissioner Boone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got, it's not really two questions, but it's two thank yous. And the first one, I'd like to thank Anthony Roberts, Mr. Trott, and Energy United for getting the traffic light up and functioning at North Down Lane and US 21. That's right by the Eyes, Ears, and Throat New Hospital. That light should be in full function within the next 14 days, and that's been a long time coming. So thank you very much. The other thing is, I've said for a long time, if you see something, say something. I got a call last Thursday on my recorder, and I answered the phone, called the lady back. I'll call her Joan. She lives in Belmore at the Parks Apartments, right across from Primal Brewery. And she said, Dan, the stream next to the apartment complex is yellow. I said, are you sure? And she said, yes. I said, can you send me a picture? Could you put that picture up? And I thought when I first saw it that it was just photoshopped. But I saw this picture and I said, oh my God. So it was, I couldn't call 311, it was late at night, and this is where Mr. Roberts comes in. I got him all the information I could possibly could. He got town staff involved in this, and the next day, they tracked that yellow paint across Highway 115 up the street into an industrial park where somebody washed out their van or their trailer that has full of yellow paint. And this is what I'm trying to say, is that it's that one citizen that saw something and said something about it. We've got a lot of people in this room, and I'm asking you to call anybody up here. We would like to get involved in this, because when you put paint in a stream like that, this is dead against everything we stand, well, I stand for. I shouldn't say that for everybody. But again, Mr. Roberts, thank you for jumping on this, and let's hope it doesn't happen again. And they were cited, by the way.
Any other questions of town staff from the board? I do have one question, and that is for Ms. Strickland. Ms. Strickland, we have a couple of upcoming community engagement events. Could you tell us and give us an update about that?
Yes, ma'am. So Thursday, January 19th at Lowe's Foods, we will have our first community engagement event of 2023, and it's a drop-in. It's a meet and greet. We don't have an official name for them yet, but we're just going to start showing up in places where there'll be a lot of folks. So if you happen to grocery shop on Thursday nights, we will be at Lowe's Foods. We will have our volunteer group who is planning our 150th anniversary celebration. Those are all, again, volunteers, just like our downtown steering committee was. And we're just going to have an opportunity to celebrate as we continue to go through our sesquicentennial celebration. Lowe's Foods is hosting us. They are providing a birthday cake for anybody that wants to stop by. So again, Lowe's Foods Thursday night between 5 and 6:30. It's just a drop-in. If you want to stop by, we'll be giving out some special treats, swag for our centennial activities, and more information about what we'll be doing all year.
Great. Thank you. Look forward to seeing everybody to come out on Thursday evening. We will now move to public comments, requests, presentations. I have a presentation, proclamation. And I believe we have some Greenway folks. Come on up. So throughout the year, we do a lot of these proclamations, and this one is near and dear. Let me start here. Whereas, Town of Huntersville's natural beauty is critical to its residents' quality of life, health, and economic well-being. And whereas the trails that span across our community are an integral part of the recreational and transportation possibilities of our area and promote an enjoyment of scenic beauty by our residents and our visitors. And whereas the parks, greenways, trails, and natural areas in our community are welcoming to all and provide a common ground for people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds to access our rich and diverse natural, cultural, and historical resources. And whereas Town of Huntersville's natural assets and resources are integral to disaster recovery and resiliency to climate change for future generations. And whereas natural trails within the Town of Huntersville vary from less than a mile in length to 8.5 miles within Mecklenburg County's Ladin Nature Preserve, range from footpaths within parks and nature preserves, from canoe trails down to the Catawba River, to greenways through local neighborhoods. And whereas trails offer quality of life benefits to all as expressions of local community character and pride, as outdoor workshops for science education, as tools for economic revitalization, as free resources for healthy recreation, as accessible alternative transportation, and as sites for social and cultural events. And whereas the Greenway Trail and Bikeway Commission, Tar Heel Trailblazers, Carolina Thread Trail, and trail volunteers impact our community by making trails and greenways accessible to the Town of Huntersville residents. And whereas the North Carolina General Assembly designated 2023 as the Year of the Trail in North Carolina to promote and celebrate the state's extensive network of trails that showcase our state's beauty, vibrancy, and culture. And whereas North Carolina is known as the Great Trails State, now therefore I, Melinda Bales, Mayor of the Town of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim 2023 as the Year of the Trail in the Town of Huntersville, and commend its observance to all people. So I am going to hand this over to our Trails and Greenway Commission members, and please join me as we celebrate the Year of the Trail here in Huntersville. We have no other can you hear me? We have no other presentations this evening, so we will now move to public comment. The first person to speak this evening under public comment is Susan Irvin. Ms. Irvin, as you come, please state your name and address for the record. With this long list of folks, we've got a bit of a stack here this evening. We will, Mayor Pro Tem Phillips, we'll do 2 minutes this evening. And I do feel that.
3 minutes, it says 3 minutes right there. It says 3 minutes right there. We prepared for this, we get 3 minutes.
Madam Mayor, I believe, if I'm correct, it is at your discretion.
That is correct. It is. With that said, I mean, I understand that the citizens who've come out to speak, there's a lot of you this evening. I'm not going to disrespect that. I understand that you've come out this evening, and we do want for your voice to be heard. That is for sure. We will go to 3 minutes. The one thing that I am going to ask is that we follow our rules. Then the rules are in front of us. Avoid duplicative and repetitive comments. We are to remain civil and courteous in our language and presentation. Insults, personal attacks, accusations, profanity, vulgar language, inappropriate gestures, or other inappropriate behavior truly will not be tolerated. So I ask that you also respect the rules of this chamber. With that, Ms. Susan Irvin, you have 3 minutes. And if you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Susan Irvin. I am the attorney for North American Properties. My address is 19726 Zion Avenue in Cornelius, Irvin Law Group. I want to thank the commissioners and the mayor for the input that they have given to us over the last 3 weeks. We were able to have significant conversations, and we also had very constructive comments from Huntersville voters and members of the community. And we have taken those to heart. Over the last week and a half since we've received those comments, we've worked on major revisions to the plans. Now, because of the agenda deadline, not the plans that were submitted prior are the only ones that can be considered by the board. The revisions that we have discussed over the last 3 weeks will be submitted this week. And I assure you they are very significant. So in addition to the changes that have been made to the plans you have before you, you will be receiving significant additional changes. And for that reason, the board, and I believe the staff will inform you of this, but the board is required to delay the vote for 30 days. We ask that you defer the decision to delay until the February 6th meeting, so that will give you a chance to review the revised plans in full. And so that is our request to the town. And again, I just want to thank the board and the mayor for taking this case so seriously and being able to look at things that are important to the town of Cornelius, but also the personal comments from the citizens of Huntersville and the voters of Huntersville. I mean, the town of Huntersville. Sorry, I'm still got my address in my head. But thank you all so much, and I'm happy to answer questions or further. I know that's right. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Irvin. We will now move to the next person who is signed up to speak. That is Mr. Adam Holbrook. Mr. Holbrook, as you come, you have 3 minutes. If you'll state your name and address for the record.
Adam Holbrook, 143 South Church Street, Huntersville. I just want to thank the board and the mayor for your consideration of deferring other business 10E, the condemnation of the Gibson Park Drive Phase 2. It was brought to my attention by Charles Ginyard this morning that this was on the agenda, where myself and my father have not been notified by anyone with the town or PPS and see that this was going on. The last communication we had with PPSNC was on December 13th, where the gentleman that works there said that he was meeting with the town yesterday to figure out what was going on. And we have not had any phone calls, emails, or any letters since. So the fact that this got on the agenda for today is kind of baffling to myself and my father.
Well, we will make sure that you get connected. Mr. Roberts, will you please make sure that Mr. Holbrook has a connection to the town so that we can clean some of that up?
Yep, I'll get with Mr. Trott and square it away.
Thank you. The next person who signed up to speak is a Mike Murphy. Mr. Murphy, as you come, if you'll please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hey. My name is Mike Murphy. My address is 8514 Brentfield Road. Like Commissioner Boone said, I saw something, so I'm here to say something. I've lived on both sides of Burkdale Village, moved to the golf course side in 2017, and this is the 4th time I'm here to speak in opposition of the Burkdale plans as they're currently proposed. And I don't know if Ms. Irvin is still here, and I'm going to try to avoid duplicative comments for the sake of my neighbors. I would challenge Ms. Irvin on Tim Perry's behavior in particular. I don't want to spread misinformation, but I spent a better part of today reading through some email traffic that was shared with me. And it seems like a lot of it is selling and marketing and social engineering of this to the town staff. Often it's like rooted in alcohol. It's always on the agenda. So it's concerning to me that even, the invitation of the former mayor and town manager to celebrate the christening of Burkdale, he mentioned that there's a company tradition of taking a shot of tequila. And that's just, to me, is kind of like, it's not a good look for the town. I'm sure that, this occurs in other areas and folks have the right to be diligent. But in looking through the email traffic, I see former Commissioner Munger, current Commissioner Phillips, and Commissioner Dan Boone all express either outright concern about what's going on and how this is paid for, or just kind of leery in general, to the point where the town attorney is reminding folks of some of the laws and regulations around this sort of behavior. So it's just not a good look for the town in light of everything that's unfolded, and it just adds further confusion and stress to the citizens. And then just in closing, again, trying to be different, just let's think about that statement and the proclamation we just made about the Year of the Trail. I can't remember it word for word, but let's think about that statement that we just made. That's like counter to everything that we're talking about with Burkdale Village. I'll cede the rest of my time. Thank you.
The next person who is signed up to speak is Suzanne Villar.
I'm going to reserve my right to go to 3 minutes, but I will try to pair my...
And if you'll state your name and address for the record.
I'm so sorry. Suzanne Villar from 1730 Bridgeton Lane in Burkdale Greens. Been here before, and I appreciate again having the opportunity to address the board. I will try to keep my comments under 3 minutes, but I reserve the right to my full 3 if I need it. I would like to say, and I don't want to use individuals' names because I don't want to get into the area that might be perceived as a personal attack, but I will say that North American Properties is here asking for a rezoning extension again, and we are here to object again. I'd like to, for the record, for those who want to dismiss our group as just being drawbridge objectors or people with a NIMBY mindset, let me assure you that we're not. Many of us who've spoken against this rezoning and will continue to do so were originally supporters of the vision the North American Properties presented to the neighbors of Burkdale Village, which was, I believe, in the fall of 2019. But I have COVID memory, so forgive me if I have that date wrong. I, for one, believed at that point that the village had been neglected by DDR and needed a facelift. I supported the ideas originally presented to the residents by North American Properties and felt that they would address many of our problems. But eventually, we learned how deceptive and incomplete North American Properties' original presentation had been and how ill-conceived North American's plans were. And that was when North American Properties lost my support. They failed to divulge their full intentions, was to seek to rezone Burkdale to make way for high-rise buildings, which I think is totally incongruous to put a high-rise building in any area that is labeled a village. It's simply not appropriate. And Mr. Perry, because he's been the point person on this, has been educated about this numerous times by members of our community. So there shouldn't be a need for a last-minute major revision. These concerns and complaints have been put before North American Properties on numerous occasions by numerous individuals, and why we are just now being told that there's a major revision is somewhat of a mystery to me. It seems like there was time and opportunity for this to have been addressed in the beginning. It seems like a committed developer would have come to the table with a full presentation from day one, revealing all of their intentions, including high-rise buildings, a 350-room apartment building, and 150-room hotel, but that was not disclosed initially. They would have come, if they were a committed developer, with delineated drawings, and that wasn't provided. Is that my time, or is that your phone?
Thank you, Ms. Villar.
Thank you for your time. Just let me end by saying, I am asking you to please not approve this postponement and not approve this rezoning.
Thank you. The next person who is signed up to speak is Tammy Davis. Ms. Davis, you have 3 minutes, and if you will state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Tammy Davis. I live at 17114 Bridgeton Lane in Birkdale Village. Well, this is the third time that I've been here, standing behind this podium, pleading for your support. The first time I spoke, it was out of frustration, concern, and anger. The second time I spoke, it was for fear of my family and fellow neighbors. And today I'm just going to speak from my heart. I love my community and all it has to offer. If I felt for one moment Knapp's plans were beneficial to a place I hold so dear and near to my heart, I would not be so adamant about trying to stop them. Many people in our community share in these feelings, but quite simply just don't have it in them to publicly stand here and speak to you all today. I assure you that they are watching and they are listening. They care about this. It's important. We as a community are upset. I don't know if we're allowed to use names, but Mr. Perry has overpromised and underdelivered to us. We were told construction would be done before the year mark, and our parking would be accommodating to all the masses. Reality is we've been left with 2 unfinished structures, and the traffic and parking are an absolute and total nightmare. Tim has changed his narrative repeatedly to fit his ever-changing motives and has just blatantly lied to us. Unfortunately, trust has been broken, and without trust, anger and suspicion have been born. If you look at our online petitions, it is 10-1 against Knapp's plan to overexpand Birkdale Village. If your decision was based purely on votes alone, this would be an absolute no to Knapp's current conquest. The heartbreaking truth is that this decision may very well be influenced solely on tax revenue, and that is what I find so incredibly disturbing. Quality of life should play a pivotal role in our town leaders' decisions. When you all, as elected officials, were on this side of the microphone vying for our votes, your constituents voted for you believing that you had our best interests at hand. The promises and oath were taken for us, your town people, not a Georgian who with questionable character and smoke and mirror. For this, my third and final plea, I am asking for you to do the right thing. Be here for us as we were there for you all. Please stand up for your people. Thank you.
Thank you. As we move forward, please let's keep our personal attacks. We should not be doing that. I'm sure that you can get your point across without doing so. The next person who is signed up to speak is Nick O'Shaughnessy. Mr. O'Shaughnessy, you have 3 minutes, if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Nick O'Shaughnessy, 8217 Parkton Gate Drive. I might have to ask you for a slight exemption from the personal attack because I am responding to Mr. Perry's Facebook rant in which he stated, "Nick, you've had your 15 minutes of fame, now is your time to quit." He also called me a fearmonger and totally non-constructive in this process. Having said that, that's all I'm going to say about him. What I do not understand about this rezoning proposal is that it knowingly, NAP knew how unique the village was conceived. Why did they do the cheap way out? And again, this is not anything derogatory against the local people, but they hired a local landscape architect who happens to be on the planning board. Rather a cute process. Rather than the architect of the same caliber as Terry Shook, of Shook and Kelly, who were the original local architects for Birkdale Village. The answer is, unfortunately, and I apologize for being slightly repetitive, in that the used car salesman approach to real estate is all about minimal capital outlay for maximum revenue and return in the short term, with no consideration for long-term permanent effects as a result of their actions. And those actions would be left with us, the neighborhoods, the community, and you, the town. The scope and size and visual depictions of their proposed buildings are an architectural joke. They are a farce and a travesty. The reimagining of the Central Boulevard is also a joke, with the Warby Parker building being the prime eyesore. Build quality is mediocre to poor, and as previously mentioned, there are 2 unfinished structures which have been unfinished for more than 2 months. Perhaps the contractor didn't get paid. That's usually the reason for no construction happening. NAP's ignorance of the concept of Birkdale Village was exemplified to me when they closed off the roundabout in the centre. The whole TND concept of interconnectivity from village to residential was destroyed. Those are public streets in Birkdale Village. Did everybody know that? They are not private streets, they are public, owned by the town. Did somebody at the town authorize the closure? Because you just ruined the central focal point of the whole development. Now all the traffic that really exits has only one way out because everybody has to go right and go to that one exit rather than the 2 exits. Birkdale Village was the first T&D nationwide to be built at one time. Forest City, this is a bit of your history for you because I've been here a long time. Forest City, the original landowners, were going to build yet another strip centre. But for the insight of Mayor Jill Swain, God rest her soul, and Anne Hammond, town planner, and David Walters, who wrote the TND, Huntersville received a true jewel of a prime example of traditional neighbourhood development. I literally implore you, beg, if you want to call it that,
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
to deny this proposal and deny the request.
Thank
NAP
you,
is
sir.
not worthy. Susan Irvin did a great job, but
Mr. O'Shaughnessy, time is up.
I'm
Thank you.
complimenting the lady. She did a great job.
I do appreciate that. The next person who has signed up to speak is Noelle Burton. Ms. Burton, as you come, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Noelle Burton. I live at 12940 Cadgwith Cove Drive. I don't even live in Birkdale Village. I live in Northstone Country Club, but I was compelled to come here tonight because I'm very upset by all of the changes occurring in Birkdale Village. Why would I want to go to Birkdale Village when all of the stores are closing or have been closed that I frequented? And the parking is a nightmare. It's not even, it's terrible. And what is the draw? I'm the perfect demographic in which you would want a 40-something-year-old mom shopper, and in all of my social circles, as well as my social media groups, I can tell you that not one single person is excited about going to the already congested Birkdale Village area. This new project has seemed to attract unruly teenagers at the movie theater and the surrounding areas. They're loud, obnoxious, vulgar, and that was my main reason for not going to malls. Christmas was a disaster, and we left when we couldn't find a parking spot. I literally lived 10 minutes away, and it took me 45 minutes to get home because of all of that traffic on Sanford Road. I really hope you stop these money-hungry, greedy developers in their tracks.
Thank you, Ms. Burton. The next person who is signed up to speak is Nadine Nguyen. Ms. Nguyen, as you come, you have 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Nadine Nguyen. I live at 8127 Strand Hill Road, and that is in Birkdale Village. I'll say thank you to all the commissioners, the mayor, all the elected officials for allowing us to speak here tonight. July 4th, 1776, the United States signed a Declaration of Independence. One of our greatest forefathers, Thomas Jefferson, penned the sentence that all citizens of the United States had the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What does that have to do with me? Let me share my little story. I moved here in 2002. Driving through Birkdale Village, just being finished, I was so excited. I fell in love with this little community. Lo and behold, my happiness was greatly accelerated 2.5 years ago when I had the opportunity to buy a little house in Birkdale Village, my cute little cottage. I love it. I still love it to this day. My concern is that the community has changed. I am no longer able just to take my car and drive around and go to the shops there, even though I literally live on the other side of the park. I could walk, but I have severe arthritis and I can't. Trying to find a parking spot, as we all know, is a living nightmare. I really started to panic the night that Santa came to Birkdale because I couldn't get to my home. My own street to my home was blockaded. Even the little secret road behind Walgreens was blocked off by the people who were doing construction in the apartments, and their signs said, "Construction traffic only." That made me realize that the changes that are occurring when I first thought they were awesome, suddenly they're not anymore. I thought ice skating was a fabulous idea to come to Birkdale. Oh no, wait. When I tried to park the day after Christmas to return some Christmas presents, there was literally nowhere to park. Cars parking up and down the residential streets of Birkdale Village, and that's during the day. Elected officials, I want to thank you for your patience, your persistence, and your perseverance in supporting the citizens of Huntersville and Birkdale Village. They voted for you. It is your responsibility to be their voice, to listen to them, to listen to what they're saying. Please support us in stopping this change. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to speak is Marianne, I'm going to hope I say this right. Thank you. I would have said it just like that, too.
My name is Marianne Turetsky, and I live at 16927 Birkdale Commons Parkway. I've been researching our distinguished board members to refresh my memory as to their platforms that they ran on to get my vote. I found out that Stacy Phillips and her family own the old store. I buy them out of their mistletoe candles every year. Then an address popped up with the name Phillips, and I couldn't believe it. The address was 16500 Birkdale Commons Parkway. That's the street that I live on. I got into my car with my friend, and it led us to that address, and I found myself sitting in front of the Birkdale Golf Clubhouse. I found out that the Phillips family does in fact have an interest in this property and their plans to develop it, just like Knapp does with Birkdale, with a 6-story hotel, apartments, high-end restaurants. I feel that Stacy, like her father did in the past, should recuse herself from this vote. It is only ethically and, more importantly, morally the right thing to do. At one meeting, I heard her ask if she should recuse herself, but the mayor said it wasn't necessary. Stacy proved to me that she wanted to do the right thing at that time. The Phillips family has all to gain in this vote, and the people of Birkdale have all to lose.
Ms. Turetsky, you're dipping into personal attacks at this point.
Okay.
Please share with your concerns about the project itself, but let's not dive into personal attacks on individuals.
and you're not going to like this. Then in 2020, I read that NAP hosted several board members at a trip to Avalon to show them what Birkdale could become. That seemed like a conflict of interest, but what do I know? So then I heard that Tim made a substantial donation to one of the board's favorite charities, Angels and Sparrows. That sounded like a soft-pedaled bribe. In closing, all I want to say is that the NAP executive came in here like a snake oil salesman in days of old, pulling his wagon into Birkdale with promise of fixing us. We were not broken. We just needed some maintenance, paint, and love to revive us. The con man was eventually unmasked, and all the people realized he was not here to help us. He could care less about Birkdale or its residents. The NAP executive is just interested in staying on top of the heap. Shame on you. To the board, all we ask is that you vote with your truths, not your pocketbook or sweet talks from NAP. The shiny new toy of NAP's will break soon, and we will be left holding the pieces. Special thanks to Amber and Derek for reaching out to us after receiving our concerns. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. The next person who is signed up to speak is Nikki Guyampa. Good. You have 3 minutes, and if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Nicholas Guyampa, 16977 Bridgeton Lane. All right. So I've lived in Birkdale for the last 2 years, and the changes I've seen haven't really been positive ones. Since Christmas, I've seen police at Victoria's Secret twice for theft. It's not uncommon to witness alarms going off and police in front of stores searching for criminals. People are now parking near and in front of my townhouse every weekend, and I can't even park in front of my own residence. The noise has increased with cars racing up and down Townley at all hours of the night. My neighbor's car was sideswiped because she parked on Townley when Bridgeton was taken up by visitors to the village. Personally, I feel like adding more buildings, people, and cars to this already congested community would be dangerous and, for a lack of better words, irresponsible to Birkdale's existing residents. For example, when I was younger, I could walk straight to the village and go to Starbucks. And the last year or so that I've moved myself into the townhouses, as I've grown up, I can't even walk down my street because there's cars parked straight on the sides, each side, bunch of congestion all through the town, the Birkdale Village, and it's just really congested. If I had to sum it up, all I'd simply say is the village used to be a cool little place where I could hang out and relax. It felt like home to me, but now I've decided to not renew my lease. I'm speaking here tonight in hopes that you all vote no to NAP's greedy, self-serving, undesirable plans of expansion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next person who has signed up to speak is Kim I do it every time. Zarzadius? Oh. Thank you. You have 3 minutes, and if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Kim Zarzadius, 17303 Englewood Lane, Huntersville. Yes, Birkdale Village did need an update. And at first I liked it. The more I look at it, though, it just looks like, today, when it was raining out, sitting at ease eating, it just looked dreary and sad, all those black buildings. In reference to a recent Open Door survey that has all of Huntersville buzzing, Huntersville was named the #1 zip code in the Charlotte area. The reason given for this rating is it offers a small town feel while still being accessible to Center City, Charlotte. Adding a 145-foot glass building to a charming village does not preserve that small town feel. I'm wondering why the plans that North American Property has cannot be accomplished on a smaller scale. There must be a way to bring more foot traffic using a hotel of 4 to 6 stories and keeping within the current architecture. Look at the Hotel Bella Grace in Charleston, for example, which falls under the Marriott umbrella. Why can't they use classic instead of Class A office space? An office building that mimics the Banana Republic building would be beautiful. Modern architecture of an all-glass building does not age well, and is proven to look dated quicker than any other style of architecture. The style and size just don't fit in Birkdale Village. The hub in Davidson, although a different feel and size than what might fit in Birkdale Village, has worked well for Davidson because it fits the architecture, it blends in. Why can't we do that? Why do we need that ugly big glass building? Surely we can come up with an office building that fits the architecture of Birkdale Village in 4 to 6 stories. I'm not aware of any professional architectural drawings that were done for this very important project. The whole plan does not feel strong. It feels unplanned and chaotic. It just feels like there's a different answer every time a question is asked. It doesn't feel truthful. It feels like there's no small area plan for this section of Huntersville. Huntersville needs to take the reins and make a detailed professional plan for how this small area will look forever before it just lets developers come in and plan it in a haphazard way, leaving it looking like a hodgepodge of different architectural styles. I've also noticed that a lot of details have not been completed. The paint is scratching off all the doors. I mean, it might not make a difference to some people, but it's not gonna age well, what they've done, I can promise you. Thank you, I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. The next person who is signed up to speak is Cindy Stockwell. Ms. Stockwell, as you come, you have 3 minutes, and if you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Cindy Stockwell, 8112 Parkton Gate, Birkdale Village in Huntersville. Good evening. I believe Birkdale Village can definitely benefit from new development, but there must be infrastructure in place to support it. The main roads in Birkdale Village, Lindholm, Townley, already have a lot of traffic congestion. They frequently back up, and Christmas was a disaster. The two entrances to Birkdale Village cannot handle the current amount of traffic they see now. Adding more traffic with all this development will negatively affect people's living, working, and just enjoying Birkdale Village the way it was. One ideal solution would be to add an additional entrance or exit to Birkdale Village, or adding more lanes to existing ones. At one point, there was talk of extending Townley Road to North Cross Drive. I feel like this should be explored further as somewhat of a solution, but I still think the infrastructure to Birkdale Village does not support this kind of buildings that they're wanting to build. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to speak is Kim D Benedict. I'm sorry I have butchered your name. I know that I have. But as you come, if you'll please state your name for the record and your address, and you have 3 minutes.
I have large print so I can see. My name is Kim D Benedictus, 8814 Camberley Road, Huntersville, Birkdale Village. I've lived there in the same house since 2001. Before my husband and I bought our home, we considered Atlanta, but only for a second, as we knew it was too large and congested with more growth to face. We then looked at South Charlotte, but didn't love the city feel and having to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. We then came upon Birkdale Village, and right away we fell in love with it. It was like the dream. The small town quaint with old-fashioned values of loving and knowing your neighbors. I'm that touchy-feely girl, California, love all people, so I just really needed a place where I could shop, visit, grow, have my family. It was my answer. Walkability, shopping, date nights, dining, movies, Easter, Bunny, Santa, art shows, music, all of that. It was amazing. I know time brings change and growth, but let's be careful and wise and aware of what building a monstrosity of an office building will do to our quaint village. It's just not changing a paint color and repainting it later if we don't like it. Haven't we learned with COVID that office buildings really aren't in high demand? I'm kind of confused with that. I don't really know why we need that. Anyway, if NAP has the mentality of we build it, they will come, then build your glass towering building in an office park that already exists, like the Rubbermaid North Point area. I mean, it would fit in there perfectly, I think, if that's really, and it's close to the interstate, all of those things that they were wanting it to be. or even in the Huntersville Business Park off Gilead. Those locations, I think, fit well. But please don't forever change our romanticism of Burkdale Village. These proposed changes don't just affect us who live there, but it truly affects everyone that lives in the surrounding areas. This used to be a fun, safe shopping, eating, and drinking to socializing place, but now I hear from many that they avoid coming to Burkdale Village. Their favorite stores are leaving, parking is hard to find, and if you try to leave, you can expect to wait for multiple light changes for even getting out onto Sanford. Please, I want to impress upon you this analogy. Think of this. I am your child. I depend on you for keeping safe and meeting my needs. You are the board, commissioners, the mayor. You are my parents. You were voted by the citizens of Huntersville to protect us and our neighborhood, like it's your children, like your home. I trust in all of you that you will make the best and most responsible decision based on Burkdale Village's current state and future. Please choose to preserve Burkdale Village, yet allow for change and positive growth. Please ensure that NAP remains transparent and honest. I know that this is a lot on your shoulders, and I do really appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening.
Great timing. Thank you so very much. The next person that has signed up to speak is Peter Romanello. Sir, you have 3 minutes if you'll please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Peter Romanello. I live at 15821 Trenton Place Road in Burkdale Village. I just wanted to start out by thanking Commissioner Boone and Commissioner Kidwell for actually responding to emails. I appreciate that when it's sent out to everybody and you only get 2 out of 7. That's not good odds. So there's 3 sides to this political game as I see it. On one side, we have a developer, and the sole purpose of the developer is to make money. At the end of the day, that's all they care about, okay? The next side is us, the residents, and we have to bear the brunt of all of the hell that will happen with that construction, okay? We have already endured all of the problems with the parking, with the traffic, and with the safety, and with potential growth that is not aesthetically or practically appropriate for the village. And last is you, the elected officials of the town of Huntersville, not Cornelius. You either ran for office to do good things for the town or to enjoy some level of power, local fame, and control. And it happens at every level of politics. All we have to do is look at our state government and our federal government to see that what happens when there's any level of let's say, something that gets in the way of doing what's correct. So for almost past year, you have heard legitimate concerns about parking, traffic, and safety. And those concerns have yet to be addressed with anything other than a glossing over by the main salesman for NAP, Mr. Tim Perry. His job, of course, is to paint a pretty picture of the village, only speaking of the benefits without addressing the negatives. Your job, hopefully, is to see through that. At the end of the day, your responsibility is to listen to the needs and concerns of your constituents. While over 1,400 residents have signed a petition against the expansion, only 140 or so have signed a petition in favor of the expansion. That means that 10 times as many of the constituents who voted you into office are saying that they unequivocally do not want this to happen. You have to listen to that. That's not 4 to 1, that's 10 to 1. We do not want it. And of those 1,400 people in that poll, that is not just people in the village. That is people in the entire town of Huntersville. And you have to listen to that. If you vote in favor of the expansion, you will then have to answer to each and every one of your constituents as to why you did that. And we have the responsibility to hold our elected officials accountable for their actions. Every time you're out in public, every time you go to a store, every time you're seen shopping in Burkdale Village, for example, you're going to be confronted, peacefully and respectfully, of course, but you're going to have to answer for your actions.
Thank you very much, sir. The next person who has signed up to speak is David Schur. You have 3 minutes. Oh,
Mayor, can I remind people, this is a mobile mic. Please, I'm short, put it wherever it's close to you. There are folks in the lobby who are noting that they are having difficulty hearing, and the stream does not do well if you don't speak pretty close to this mic, so that'd be helpful.
Thank you.
With that, David Scherer, 17142 Pennington Drive in Burkdale Village. Thank you again for allowing public comments. Real quick, can I get a show of hands of how many people here are in attendance to be against North American Properties proposal? Thank you. Thank you. Last time I spoke, I said that that each person who was in attendance represented dozens of families that are unable to attend in person due to other obligations. I would say now that number is even higher. Many people have or will speak of the issues that the proposal by North American Properties may cause, and I concur, so I won't delve into those same reasons with my time. Instead, let me reflect upon something I took note of while attending a previous meeting. The fiscal year 2022 financials were presented. I noted that revenues exceeded budget, expenses were under budget, and most importantly, revenues exceeded expenses and provided a surplus to reserves. That was a great job. What does the North American Property Zoning proposal do to improve upon this performance? Has any of this been reviewed or vetted? Can it be provided to the residents? What I can tell you is that we have discussed the safety, infrastructure, and quality of life impacts from the proposed changes. As it stands, the main beneficiary of the changes would be North American Properties, which is headquartered in Cincinnati, 450 miles away. They are not concerned with the negative impacts they will cause here. North American Properties knew the zoning laws in Burkdale Village when they purchased it. Why are we looking to appease people 450 miles away from Huntersville rather than its residents? Please do not allow for the deferral of the decision once again, and please deny the rezoning, and let's put this issue to rest. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next person who has signed up to speak is Lisa Scher. And as you come, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. And it's good to see you again.
Thank you. Lisa Scher, 17142 Pennington Drive, Burkdale. I find myself in uncharted territory as I've spent my career working in corporate finance, doing business case analysis, assembling data to determine whether to proceed or squash a project, making lease versus buy decisions. I've always said, I don't make difficult decisions. I let the numbers make the decision for me. Clearly, the developer is no different and is in business to make a profit. However, the difference is their proposal is not in keeping with the zoning that impacted purchasing decisions for hundreds of homeowners in the surrounding communities. If you don't like the rules of the game, you can't just keep moving the goalpost. Secure a non-residential area that's zoned accordingly for the build-out. There are plenty of other opportunities in the Huntersville area. The disconnect for me that I keep asking myself is, what is in this for the town of Huntersville? Once again, my finance background never fails me. Money, 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 money. Unless I'm incorrect, the town is not in the red. We are afforded the luxury of time to make thoughtful and meaningful change for our community and owe it to our constituents to do just that. We need to pause, run the numbers, and truly quantify the impact in the out periods to the town's resources. The homeowners have spoken and outlined their concerns, their interactions, their experiences. We have problems now, and doubling the amount of traffic to the area is clearly not the solution. If you don't believe the homeowners, then a quick Google search can highlight incidences covered by our media. Police investigate brutal assault by group of teens in Burkdale Village. 3 nabbed in Burkdale Village's Victoria's Secret heist, where 4 suspects stole over $6,000 in merchandise. And of course, everyone remembers the murder of 19-year-old Peter Jordan at the apartments across the street at the landings at North Cross. God bless his soul. Ask yourself, Will the developer's expansion eliminate or reduce such headlines? Thank you for your attention and thank you for your service. We all want a better, safer community, and with proper planning, we can get it right. I applaud the county building out the new Huntersville Rec Center. It's a joy to see our youth getting fit, playing team sports, and providing them a rec center as a gathering place. The only downside is that we kick the kids out of the center at 6 p.m. on Friday and Saturday nights. It is our duty to provide a gathering space for the youth to prosper and to grow. Birkdale Village is not that place to develop our youth. Let's create that place. Thank you for your time.
The next person who has signed up to speak is Julia Savage. Good evening. As you come, hi. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Julia Savage. I live at 17036 Pennington, also known as the Front Line. Everyone here has basically said over and over again how this will impact our lives. And what I want you to do is to imagine living in my home when I cannot back out of my street. It would not be uncommon on a daily basis and perhaps hourly to see a car doing in the excess of 40 miles an hour down Pennington Drive. 2-3 years ago, I asked Huntersville and Cornelius to do an evaluation. I'm in a unique position because half of my home is in Cornelius and half of my home is in Huntersville. So when I'm in my dining room, I am in Cornelius, and when I'm in my great room, I am in Huntersville. So I reached out to both communities and I said, this is a very serious problem. I don't have children, but I hope to have grandchildren, and I know my neighbors do have children. And I'm not kidding you, 40 miles an hour is not an exaggeration. So when we look at adding all this additional traffic, we are not talking about adding additional means to move that traffic in and out. We will become that highway for people to leave Birkdale to go 40, 50 miles an hour down my street to get to Catawba. So when you sit here and you listen to all of us, we all truly want to see improvement in our community. We do. We truly are praying that you all understand that this is highly emotional to us because it is truly the safety of our families that we're talking about. And why we bought and live where we are is because of what all of us have just said to you. I'm originally from Michigan. I came here and absolutely fell in love with Birkdale. That's why I'm here. And I hear that from many of the people in my community. So we are truly, truly depending on you to understand that we do not want to stand in the way of improvements and growth. But said earlier, when they purchased this property, they knew what they were buying. When I bought my home, I didn't buy a lakefront. I knew I wasn't getting that. It's unfair for them to come in and try to claim that it is their investment, so now they shall make it what they want it to be. They should have purchased another property. And again, we are going to be their consumers. We are your constituents. We beg of you to not approve this. That doesn't mean we want to be difficult. It means we want responsible, safe means to deal with this. And we absolutely have to address the parking issue. Again, several of us have already told you, please put your shoes in, your feet in my shoes, and imagine living in your home that you cannot get to. People have literally parked in front of your driveway. So please decline and deny this request, and let's come back to the table and do something reasonable. Thank you so much.
The next person who has signed up to speak is Errol, and I messed it up the last time. And you will correct me. Is it Genois?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I'm Errol Genois, 8537 Camberley Road, Huntersville. Obviously, our community stands at a crossroad of positive versus negative progress. I want positive progress. I want to live among people in a community that reflects positive attitudes. As a result, I don't want exit 25 to become more congested, like exit 36. I don't want more traffic through Birkdale Village, in the Greens and in the Birkdale area. I don't want increases in noise and pollution of all kinds. I don't want the increase of mobile units at our schools. I don't want a negative impact on the property values of our homes. I don't want a 7-story office commercial building, a 12-story hotel, a mixed-use commercial residential building with 350 multi-family units. And I don't want new 6-story parking decks. I don't want our greenway and our natural wildlife compromised. I don't want economic activities that will naturally attract crimes. I don't want additional homeowner costs to maintain basic maintenance. For example, changing furnace air filters twice a year and the need for power washing the exterior of our home from construction pollution, as well as Samford Road work. This is a factual expense noted from the history of Robbins Park and Interstate 77 construction. I don't want a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit anywhere in the business area of Birkdale Village. And I don't want the apartments and the hotel planned in the Birkdale golf course community. I don't want negative progress. Negative progress will only create more negative people than ever. I want positive thinking to produce positive progress. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next person who has signed up to speak is Gay Redisil. As you come, you have 3 minutes, and if you'll please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Gay Rudisil. I live at 17204 Bridgeton Lane, the street that runs, first street that runs parallel with the shopping area. Just because I have white hair doesn't mean I don't add good anymore. In an article on the Observer, just January the 9th, I believe it was, it was talking about the number of spaces and the number of it, and it says 125-room hotel, okay, 350 multi-family units, then there's the commercial part of the building. Okay, but just the 125 and 350, that's 475 cars for that number of people. That's not adding in the fact that each apartment may have 2 people that have cars, and the people that work aren't necessarily going to go home at night right away. A lot of people stay to work late. A lot of people work Saturdays, so you're going to have it used also on weekends. But it adds up 475 cars without even adding in the commercial building. And their plan, according, was a quote in there, and I won't say the person that I quoted it from because we can't use that, but it said the plan calls for 450 more parking spaces, which would more than make up for the uses that was needed. And I'm going, wait a minute, 475 cars, 450 spots? No, that doesn't come out. So I thought even that, without adding in all those cars, I know what that traffic is like, what all these people have talked about because of where I live. I've lived there 19 years. Beautiful community. I have loved it. I've loved going older there. There's so much, but it has changed so much. My 20-year-old granddaughter, who has visited me very often through her years, came and said, Grandma, at Christmas, what happened? What happened? It's not a village anymore. It doesn't even look like it used to. And I had to agree with her. Things have changed. The traffic has changed. The circle is gone. And I would like to mention also, there was a quote about, in that article about the wonderful Christmas parade. Yeah, it was nice having a parade there. It was massive traffic. But long before they took the property, back before COVID, we used to have hometown parades there. What Huntersville, I think, would claim they're very proud of. If any of you ever came to those parades, I mean, they were long parades. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to speak is Catherine Wright. Ms. Wright, as you come, you have 3 minutes, if you'll state your name and address for the record.
My name is Catherine Wright, and I live at 8203 Strand Hill Road in Huntersville, which is in Burkdale Village. Mayor Bells, thank you, and commissioners, for allowing us to speak tonight. I am not going to be as eloquent. My mother recently died, but it was so important to me to come and just share my heart with you and stand with you and tell you. I'm kind of feeling like maybe some people have misjudged you and that you're going to stand on our side because you care about each of us because you are part of us. And there's always another developer that's going to come in with big money and try to change everything for their own purposes. But I really feel that each of you understand what we're saying. We don't have to stand up here and say this. The traffic's awful. I've been here 36 years. I've lived in Davidson, Cornelius, and Huntersville. One of the things I've always kind of felt is that Davidson's kind of had more control over their building and stuff. And Cornelius is starting to have a task management force to manage all of this too and try to downsize some of the zoning and stuff. You guys are our people. And I just hope that you will stand with us and help us make this a special place. I love that you applauded the trails and the beauty and scenic beauty around here. And I'm on those trails a lot, riding my bikes and walking, and my husband and neighbors and people from all around Huntersville. And I try to imagine what it will look like when we start having these almost skyscraper kind of looks through the trees. It's just going to change everything, and change comes. And I hear people say you can't stop change and progress. But what is really progress? And is it inevitable that it has to look like Knapp's presenting? Could it be something more special, that we hold our culture more dearly and that we're separate and different from all the other places that just slap up a new skyscraper and overbuild and everybody feels congested and claustrophobic, you know? So anyway, I just wanted to say, I think you guys are awesome. You do so much for us. And I'm just asking you to step up and do the right thing, because I think you will. And I'm counting on you, and thank you.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to speak is John, I'm going to butcher this one too, and I apologize. Baggiano? I tried. Thank you for coming. You have 3 minutes if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is John Baggiano. I live at 17318 Inglewood Lane in the Greens of Burkdale. Thank you all for listening to us all speak tonight. I wanted to talk about a slightly different topic than what was already spoken about in Burkdale. I have in my hands here the downtown master plan. I followed along with this. I don't know all the details, but I think this is wonderful. There's a lot of attention and effort that's gone into the area immediately surrounding here. And one of the things that we've talked about, both with NAP and as a community, you had this box, or there was this box the town staff has of the 73 and Highway 77 corridor is a high-density corridor. Burkdale Village is included in that. It's one of the justifications for the buildings that Burkdale wants. Regardless of this specific project, we need something like this for the Burkdale area. Just the sheer amount of development that's coming on the other side of the highway by the North Cross development, by us on the Cornelius side, the widening of 73. You know, this This isn't going to be the only project in that immediate area. It took me 15 minutes yesterday, in the middle of the day, to get out of Birkdale. It took me longer, I had to come down here for a doctor's appointment over here by the hospital. It took me longer to get out of Birkdale to the highway entrance than it did to go the rest of the way down here. And I try to walk and bike as much as possible. My son and kids would bike to school, even though it wasn't necessarily safe along the North Cross, getting across 73. But we need something like this for even this type of project, the scale of this project to be considered. And everything seems to be banking on widening 73. But if you drive in Atlanta, that's not a solution for long. 5 years, that 73 is going to be just as packed as it is now, and it's going to be worse unless there's some plan to connect us beyond just this. And I know there's a few additional roads coming from the highway toll funds, but that's not enough. We need greenway extensions over the highway up there. We need more accessibility beyond just the widening of 73. And that's all I wanted to say, and thank you all for listening tonight.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to speak is Dawn Snow. Ms. Snow, as you come, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Dawn Snow, 8132 Evanston Falls Road, Huntersville. I've said this before, and we're not against development altogether, but we just want responsible development. There's really no need for an office building, and it doesn't fit. But however, if the motivation for the office building happens to be a convention center, then who is paying for it? Will it be funded at all by the taxpayers and citizens? Has a cost analysis been done, and will there be a bond referendum? What is the potential overhead cost to the town for this proposed rezoning project, including the cost of increased infrastructure, impact on property values, crime, emergency services, loss of thriving businesses, and demand on schools? How do these overhead costs compare to the potential revenue? The town does not really have the bandwidth right now to approve the scale of this project without slowing down and digging into the details and answering these questions. To approve this without doing so is irresponsible. I really don't understand why the town keeps bending over backwards to the demands of North American Properties and granting all these extensions when they have yet to make any material changes to their proposal. In the meantime, North American Properties has shown zero commitment to our community, as they have continued to kick out many small local businesses that our community loves, such as Nina's and Corkscrew. And just this week, I learned that Claire's, Kilted Buffalo, and Loft are also being kicked out. So no, we are not against development altogether. We are just against irresponsible development. Our village deserves better. Brookdale Village has helped make our zip code one of the most desirable in the area, according to a recent article from Axios. Let's not ruin it by acting irresponsibly and destroying the small-town feel that has made it so popular. Please deny this extension and deny this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to speak is Kitty Geese. I'm sorry. I see that you had deferred your time. They were not together. Are we, if you'll, they weren't together. If you'll please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, it's Kitty Geesey, and I'm at 9525 Devonshire Drive in Brookdale. And so my thought during the middle of the night one night was that why does North American Properties buy the part by the, at the beginning of North Cross Drive across 73, where Newell Rubbermaid and all those businesses were. And it's down, and there's a bridge that goes over to Birkdale Village, and so it seems like it would just kind of make everybody happy to do that. And I read in an email that I think that they have proposed to buy the business park there. So that would take care of the offices buildings and the hotel. And anyway, and we could all be happy.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to speak is Tim Perry. Mr. Perry, as you come, if you'll state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Tim Perry, 2008 West Cavendish Court. Thank you for your time this evening. I just want to mention a few things concerning our plans at Burkdale. We have spent, someone said earlier that it seemed fluid and conversations seem fluid, and I would agree with that. It has been fluid as we've spent time speaking to citizens, speaking to council members, and the changes having to remove some of the filings in order to be able to meet with the council in December is what led us to some of these changes. We met some of you on December 20th, others of you on January the 3rd. Retail is fluid. A lot of tenants, national tenants leave for national tenant reasons. Right now, in 2022, there were a little over 4 million people that that came to Burkdale Village. In 2019, that number was 4.5. So traffic's down, and yet the parking is the one thing we've heard from almost every comment here tonight, almost every one. We're going to make substantial changes to the plan. We're going to deal with the apartments later. That could be 10 years, it could be never, but it's certainly not something that solves the number one problem today, because it self-parks and provides no additional net new parking. Same with the hotel. It needs to go in a different place. We need to, from comments with some of you and comments with the community, it needs to go in a different place. It needs to aesthetically fit in better with the arrival experience and the offering of Burkdale Village. But one thing that you'll see when it comes back is this is all about parking. Every comment. There's no solution. I've heard no solutions really other than people park on the streets, there's not enough parking, I have to walk from up around the building to get there. This was all about parking. That's what drove it, that's what we want to focus on, and that's what our new plan is going to focus on. It is not going to focus on, well, I say that back, it's going to be focused on parking, and at our suggestion, actually our idea, adding a lane onto Lindholm there at Townley so that more cars can exit faster. But I just wanted to thank you for your time. Look forward to presenting to you in a week or so an updated plan that's going to be about parking. And something's got to pay for it, something's got to park it. That would add, in the case of our submission, 450 spaces. About 70% of the guests at Burkdale, those 4.5 million people, about 70% are there after 5 or on the weekends, when you have a 24% increase in the number of spaces there on property. And if we don't want to solve parking, that's fine too. But this is about parking and the nonstop comments that we hear from the citizens about needing a better alternative and needing that to be convenient. That deck behind J. Jill, behind Barnes & Noble, is where we were proposed to put it. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the comments over the past month as we've nurtured a solution that does satisfy many of the concerns here today. I appreciate your leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to speak is Carrie Edelstein, and I believe Casey Childers has designated their time. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Thank you. So you have 6 minutes, and if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Hi, everyone. Hi, guys. As you know, I'm Carrie Edelstein, and I live at 8810 Camberley Road in what is apparently already the hottest zip code in Metro Charlotte. I am pleased to be speaking here tonight. Show of hands, who here either shopped at Loft, shopped at Banana Republic, shopped at Nina's, got a drink at Corkscrew? Raise your hand.
This is not interactive.
Okay. Well,
I understand, but
I am pleased to be here tonight in my corduroy slacks from Banana Republic, my sweater from Loft, my poncho from Nina's, you know, those stores that none of us allegedly supported. And my comments tonight are dedicated to them and to Corkscrew, and apparently also Killed Buffalo and Clara's, as I learned tonight. NAP would like for you to believe that those of us expressing concern tonight and throughout the last few months about the rezoning plan, smaller or larger as it may be right now, are merely naysaying NIMBYs who lack sophistication. I'd like to directly address that deeply misguided misperception. NAP bought Burkdale because they see value in our community's alleged affluence. So why is it that they talk to us and about us, that aspirational community that's the hottest zip code in Charlotte, as if we lack sophistication? Let's compare notes. NAP has conducted no business analysis of the revenue to the town versus the cost to the town for their proposal, or any part of their proposal, including the convention center, to persuade us that this is a fiscally responsible or even financially feasible endeavor. In fact, I'm the one that brought that to your attention in the last meeting. They may not be required to do this, but it certainly seems the wise thing to do if they want us to be confident that the revenue from this will outweigh the cost. NAP has also not addressed the infrastructure investments, the many variations of those that we've talked about required by the town to ensure success of this project. We all brought that to your attention, and some of you brought that to their attention. NAP has suggested, and this is fascinating in light of the comments that were just made, that live, work, play destinations are our future. But for who exactly? Where's that vision addressing the different employees at Birkdale, like the janitorial staff that will be at the offices, the housekeeping and bellhops and receptionists at a hotel, or restaurant servers, none of whom will be likely to afford luxury housing without a meaningful, affordable housing accommodation, which nobody has been discussing, let alone promising. Worse, there's no transportation infrastructure. There's no public transportation to Birkdale. If there's any part of me that's indeed a NIMBY, it's that I don't want that disgraceful brand of classism in my backyard. Now suddenly they're changing this to be a smaller proposal. Is that really true? Do we really believe that? Or are they just not wanting all of us to be here when they ask you to vote on this on February 6th? I think it's the latter. NAP has exhibited a complete lack of ingenuity and resourcefulness in even sharing design inspirations. And by the way, you don't need an architect to share design inspirations. You need a Pinterest account, a Google image share, and an intern. And I sent you some of those ideas last night without the intern. NAP has shown no capacity for community engagement. In fact, they've actively lashed out, and you've heard about this, at different community members, including myself, by the way, and perpetuated lies about us. They'll say we've shared no other ideas, but I personally heard tons of really great ideas coming from this community. It's made me really grow to even love and respect my community even more. Of course, I've not actually seen NAP taking notes as we've shared these ideas to them, which might be why they don't remember them. And it is not all about parking. That is a piece of the mix, but it is clearly not just about that. You've heard a lot of variety tonight, and not that many people brought up parking. It says to me they're not listening. So finally, it seems like NAP can't manage successfully the existing project. If you look at those unfinished eyesores on the green right now, it seems like they were either surprised that we have weather here, or labor shortages, or an economic slowdown. Maybe they were surprised by all of the above. Or maybe they just lied to us about their timelines. As some have mentioned, few of us are really opposed to any redevelopment. I'd actually really love to see smart redevelopment, or issues that we hold ourselves to a higher standard than this, a standard of responsible redevelopment, aesthetic continuity, appropriate scale, and fiduciary responsibility in our backyards. We, the residents of this community, are not the ones lacking sophistication here. Everyone in this room would be pretty naive to believe that NAP would come up with a materially revised new plan that comprehensively addresses our new concerns for the next meeting. A sophisticated company would have already done that. The only way to demand that sophistication, that standard that put Birkdale on the map in the first place, is to deny the request for a delay, vote no tonight, and send them back to the drawing board to truly engage the community in a plan we actually love, in a plan that embraces design continuity, financial responsibility, and effective infrastructure planning. That's what this is going to take. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person who has signed up to speak is Brian Rice. Mr. Rice, give me just a second to get to this other. Shannon Rice has designated her time. Is she here? And you've designated your time? Thank you so very much. Mr. Rice, you have 6 minutes, and if you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Brian Rice, 17232 Bridgeton Lane, Huntersville. Before I get started, I'd just like to reiterate, I think Susan Irvin did a nice job. I do want to remind her that this is Huntersville that she's talking about, even though I believe she lives in Cornelius. Town Board, I'm asking again, as I have in prior meetings, that you say no to the current proposal shared by NAP and no longer delay this vote. Again, I come to you not as a single family, but as a representative of 1,442 people that have signed our petition. And so that it's a matter of record to the folks at NAP who have reached out on social media, the people that are signing this petition are locals. I can attest that my wife looks at every single one of them. They're locals, they're voters, and most importantly, they're your guests, as you like to call them, at Birkdale Village. While we are not against development, this is not the right development and not the right time, given the other developments on Sam Fir, current insufficient parking in Birkdale Village, and current traffic patterns in this area. Furthermore, the consistent half-truths and arrogant antagonistic attitude by NAP continues to erode trust that they have Huntersville's best interest at hand. Board, please do not delay this vote. NAP continues to use delay tactics to its advantage so they can pursue a false narrative to meet their goals. As an example of this tactic, NAP gave an interview with the Charlotte Observer dated January 11, 2023, and I'd like to share a few quotes that were provided. In quotes, "So in any case, the argument that doing nothing is a better solution than adding 450 spaces is nonsensical." We are nonsensical. Well, to suggest that we said do nothing and to suggest that we said no to 450 parking spaces is only half the story. And that certainly does sound nonsensical. Of course, as we know, those 450 spaces come with all the apartments, hotels, office spaces, and convention center. Again, another example of NAP driving a half-truth and false narrative to get this project approved. Dare I say, this was January 11th, and now all of a sudden, there's no other development, and you're going to hear about that in a couple weeks? I don't know. Also in the article, in quotes, attendance at the Santa event and traffic leaving Birkdale Village afterward about matched the previous year's numbers, this person added. Yet this time, some seem to have forgotten and are inflating the issue to support a narrative, he said. Again, many of us residents have seen these events, even prior to NAP ownership. I believe we have a better view than NAP. As someone who lives on the corner of Bridgeton Lane, I've seen it for 17 years. Frankly, we have more to gain or lose through their investment than they do. And they haven't done much to convince us that they aren't the ones driving the false narrative. I wonder, is this simply arrogance, incompetence, or a conscious effort to avoid the discussion because their job is simply to get the deal done and worry about the consequences after they're hours away in Georgia or Ohio? NAP and the folks that are making these decisions are not Huntersville residents, but they have a full-time job to convince you of a flawed plan. For people like me, the people that have come here and tried to speak out against, for the 1,442 people that signed this petition, this is my part-time job to convince you that as a full-time resident of Huntersville, we will have to endure the consequences of this flawed plan. In summary, again, I ask that you say no to this current proposal and let NAP come with a different proposal that both in scale and time represent a real opportunity to help our city grow in line with the 2040 vision. Development is critical for our growth. This proposal is not the right development and not the right time. Please don't delay this vote again so that NAP can continue this PR campaign to share opinions and flawed vision. All they have to do is get the vision approved, but will be hours away in Georgia and could care less about the consequences. Thank you.
All right, so that is everyone who has signed up to speak this evening. We will now move to agenda changes. Are there any agenda changes this evening?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
point of order.
Yes.
May I recommend a 5-minute recess?
Certainly. We will take a 5-minute recess. We will start back at 7:40.
10 months.
It is time to pull back together.
That's how I feel.
Board members. Thank you all. Are there any agenda changes this evening? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve the agenda, or motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
There is a motion. Thank you for Commissioner Phillips. And a second, Commissioner Partee. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Phillips, we had multiple. I heard Commissioner Munger first. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. We will now move into the public hearing, 9A. Conduct continuation of public hearing on petition TA 22-12. This is a request by the Huntersville Town Board to amend Article 4 of the zoning ordinance, clarifying first-floor residential and commercial area requirements for shopfront and workplace mixed-use buildings. Mr. Simoneau.
Thank you, Mayor. Enter the staff report into the record. What you see before you is the text amendment that was presented at the public hearing first of the month. Staff sticks with the recommendations that you have, and you see before you that we went over. I'm not going to spend any time going over those text amendments.
And if you wouldn't mind speaking a little
bit closer.
Yes.
Okay.
I was having a hard time.
So we're not going to add anything to what we had said previously at the last public hearing, but I did want to share with you the recommendations from the Huntersville Ordinances Advisory Board. Everything that you see in writing, the Huntersville Ordinances Advisory Board agreed to stick with. The only thing that they're going to change is the building layout. So under the staff proposal, it is to modify the first floor to say residential up to 50% of first floor, or change non-residential to commercial use. The Ordinances Advisory Board is recommended kind of rewording it in setting the residential up to 40% of maximum on the first floor instead of 50%. So that's, I mean, that truly is the differentiation between the two. And just wanted to kind of get that out there quickly without having to go into great detail. So again, it's just reducing residential use from 50% up to 50% to 40%. I'm happy to answer any questions. We'll be going to the planning board on Tuesday a week.
Okay, thank you. Before we go further, I would like to make sure that the planning board members have an opportunity. If you wouldn't mind, please stand and introduce yourself. And then if you have any questions at this time for this public hearing, this joint public hearing, please feel free. Thank you all for being here. Are there any questions at this point for staff from the planning board members? Seeing none, I'll open it up for the town board. Commissioner Munger.
I did actually have a question for one of the planning board members.
Oh.
Frank, you were deeply involved in this process. Just to make sure this is the exact intent of what you were trying to convey in terms of it being 40% residential and the rest commercial. Is that accurate?
Frank Gammon, Vice Chair, Planning Board. Yes, it is. It was a long process. I think if you watched any of those, if you go back, we probably had one extra meeting because there was questions about what is the definition, that we wanted things clarified. Number two, I wrote the motion, and I wrote it differently than this, but it meant the same thing. And that's what it came down to. I wrote it out for what it meant, because this means, if you look at it, 100% commercial or up to 40% use of the first floor area. Now, I also had non-residential listed in that, but the board as a group, and I voted for this, but the board as a group said that they didn't want to put that in there, and I supported that because I was just trying to get this thing done, and with board consensus.
I appreciate that. 'Cause,
Thank you.
Yes, it was an interesting journey for this particular one. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Kovacs?
I wanted to clarify, commercial use does not include shared space.
Yes, that is correct. Commercial use, if it's shared space, it's going to be categorized residential, yes.
Any other questions? Any other questions from the planning board members? All right. With that, then I will close this public hearing. And we will now move to item 10A. This is a petition R22-01, DDRTC Burkdale Village. And Mr. Richards, you are presenting this evening.
Good evening, Brian Richards for the planning staff. At this time, I'd like to submit my staff report to the record. In light of all the information we've gathered here this evening, I'm going to kind of cut to the chase. Staff has deemed the changes with the withdrawal of the special use permit and the text amendment, and then those languages being integrated into the rezoning case, that should be deemed a substantial change. This requires that the board defers action for a minimum of 30 days. We've had continuing discussions with North American Properties over the last several weeks and have recently been informed of some additional changes that they would like to make. So staff at this time would like to ask the board to continue tonight's hearing to the February 6th town board date. At that time, the board could then make a decision to deem if those changes, the additional changes, are substantial in nature. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, we will open it up. Commissioner Kovacs.
So they're substantial in nature, but we're not starting the whole process again?
Because they're going to have additional changes that they're going to introduce to us later this week. We don't have those in paper or on drawings yet, so I can't evaluate those. So instead of evaluating what they have done tonight, continuing it 30 days, getting new changes, and then continuing another 30 days, we've asked them, and they've agreed to combining all sets of changes so we get one final set of changes, and then you will be able to make the determination on February 6th if those are substantial in nature. And at this time, staff would say that those would be substantial.
Commissioner Partee.
I'd like to address our town attorney regarding in continuance, to deny continuance, are we leaving ourselves open to litigation or legal logistics?
So to answer your question, Commissioner Partee, the changes that have already been submitted per our ordinance, if they're deemed by this board to be substantial changes, and planning staff is recommending that they are substantial changes, we would either have to defer for 30 days and wait for the applicant to resubmit additional changes and then defer for an additional 30 days per ordinance requirements if those additional changes are considered substantial. So rather than deferring twice and delaying the decision, the proposal is to have the final decision continued to the first February meeting, and at that time, the board can make a decision as an entire board as to whether the combined changes as submitted are substantial and do one 30-day deferral rather than two.
Thank you.
Commissioner Munger.
I have a motion if it's appropriate at this time.
We'll do a motion and then we'll open it up for discussion.
My apologies. Yep. I'd like to make a motion to continue the final decision on petition R22-01 until February 6, 2023 at 6 p.m. at Huntersville Town Hall to allow the town board to determine if the submitted changes are substantial and require a 30-day deferment per the town's zoning ordinance.
Is there a second to that motion? Second. All right. Now we'll open it up for discussion. Commissioner Kidwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, thank you for supplying this, and I had a conversation with you in the back.
And it reminds me of a very accomplished attorney out of Denver, out of Lincoln County. I was, and a quick story, I was trap shooting in my father-in-law's backyard. He's got about 4 acres. Her property abuts it. We're out there trap shooting. She came down, she heard the gunshot, she was concerned, waved me over, went and talked to her. She's like, I really don't like you shooting us, so we're not shooting at your property, we're shooting over here in this berm, we're shooting clay pigeons. You know, we trap shoot. And it's 100% legal, it's within regulations. And she was the assistant DA over there. But she said, you know, just because it's legal doesn't make it right. And I'm kind of drawn to that. It just popped in my head. I mean, just because we have an ordinance that says you have to do it doesn't make it right. So I just want to put that out there. I mean, I've got a lot of concerns about this. 7 days ago, an article appears in the Charlotte Observer, this is to my board, about how if we don't do this, we're holding Huntersville back. Oh, what a horrible, horrible thing we are. I call it a hit puff piece. It was quite comically written. And then over the past 2 weeks, you know, we hear nothing about changes. We hear nothing for the past month about changes. We hear nothing about changes. We get this agenda, it's presented to us with 0 changes, and then suddenly we have a meeting today between the town manager, the mayor, the NAP. Suddenly changes appear. The rest of the board wasn't involved in those conversations. Yeah, and I got a problem with that. That just seems, and I'm not calling you shady, but that whole process seems shady. You know, we've been inundated with emails, and if I didn't answer emails, or if we didn't all answer emails, it's not because we're ignoring you, it's we're getting that many emails. We're getting that many emails. We're getting that many communications. And I've tried to call some of you back. I've tried to email as many people back as possible. But it wasn't the emails that were catching my attention. It was the screenshots of interactions between members of NAP and what did he call it? What did Mr. Rice call them? Customers or guests. You know, when you're trying to win over a community about a development, you don't engage and cause more angst. This board, I know, is going to vote to move this forward. They're scared of litigation. They're scared of saying no, but you know what? They are listening to you. I will tell you that. All right? I will not be supporting the movement. I think, and I heard it in Mr. Perry's own words, they're discontinuing the apartments for now. They're gonna look for a different place for the hotel, fine, whatever. For now, those words matter, for now. A couple years ago, there was a big uproar with a development going on across the street. And then just as recently, we spoke about the development, how the developer used certain language to modify their proposal to basically lessen the commercial space, and that's why we had our public hearing today. There was a lot of people up here who were on that board at the time who have heartburn from that. Pay attention to what's going on. Listen to the words, for now. This isn't going away. This isn't all right, we're gonna get in this Class A office space, which is good for, I think, 15 years, somewhere in that ballpark, until the shiny and new wears off. We're going to get an additional parking space or parking level, potentially, maybe, we don't know. It's still got to go in front of this board to be voted on. But I will say, and I just want the residents to know this, whether anybody up here in February votes for or against this project, you know, I can tell you that the conversations are happening amongst us. They are reading your emails. They are listening. So just keep sending those emails. Thank you.
Commissioner Kovacs?
My questions are for Ms. Sloop, just to clarify, but my brain hurts trying to put it into words. Okay, so there's substantial changes to the project, and it's prior to the final vote. This writing doesn't specify how prior to the final vote it needs to be. It can be same day.
No, so to clarify, the applicant has already submitted changes to the original plan set, and those changes that have already been submitted, not the changes that they tonight indicated they were going to submit by the end of the week, but those changes in and of themselves that have already been submitted, planning staff has advised, and of course the town board would have to make that decision on its own, that those changes that have already been submitted are considered substantial. So rather than this board making a determination on half of the changes that have been submitted, the proposal is to defer, or I'm sorry, continue a decision, a final decision, to the point where you would have all of the changes. And at one time, the town board can make a decision as to whether all of the submitted changes are substantial, and at that point, defer action for 30 days, rather than doing it piecemeal.
What are the substantial changes that have been made?
Brian, can you address that for Commissioner Kovacs?
Originally, they were going to ask for changes in a text amendment 2206, to increase the building height. They've withdrawn that text amendment, and that text amendment would require a special use permit be granted. That was special use permit 2201. That was also withdrawn. They then introduced the height into the rezoning application. That's the main substantial change. Before, they weren't asking for a height additional height from the rezoning. They were asking them through the special use permit and text amendment. Now they're asking for the height via the rezoning.
But that occurred previously, so why didn't we consider that a substantial change in December?
In December, they had not given us the paperwork, which is why they asked for the deferral to tonight's meeting for the decision.
So, and to be clear, you were already recommending that there were substantial changes based off of that. Correct. The town attorney has suggested that we continue this discussion to February 6th, so that if there is a continuation, it's 1 and not 2, a 30-day versus a 60-day.
Correct.
Is that?
It would be 2 30-day.
If you made the decision tonight based on the current plan set that those were substantial changes, you would have to defer 30 days. But then in the interim, the applicant has indicated they are going to submit additional changes, which will also likely be considered substantial. Therefore, again, the proposal is to continue the final decision on the application so that the town board would have the full plan set, including all proposed changes, and at that meeting, make a determination as a board as to whether or not the combined changes are substantial and whether or not to defer action for 30 days as required by the town zoning ordinance.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Commissioner Partee.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to speak from my heart, and I'm going to use the word hook, H-O-O-K-E-D, metaphorically. As a resident of this community, my wife Michelle and I, we chose to live here in Huntersville. And in 2003, we liked the John Whelan type of home, and the realtor brought us up here to Huntersville. We went to the Hamptons first, looking at John Whelan homes. We went to Birkdale behind the golf course, looking at John Whelan homes. And then when it was time to get lunch, 2003, the realtor took us past the golf course, across Sam Fur, right into this little village with shops, restaurants, theater at the end of the village. And my wife says, wow, this reminds me of Back to the Future. We went to a restaurant, we sat down, we had a meal, we walked out, sat down, walked around. And guess what? We became hooked. That's all it took. And not knowing that Burkdale was not the town downtown, we just loved the ambiance. We just loved the aesthetics. And we decided to build our home. We're in Lattice Springs in 2004. And thereafter, when we came down to watch and monitor our house being built, where do you guess we went and hang out? For breakfast, for lunch, for dinner? Burkdale. 2004, we closed on our house, and then friends would come down to visit us. Where do we take them? Burkdale Village. And guess what? They get hooked also. They love Huntersville. Now I'm going to talk as a commissioner, and I'm going to use the word hook metaphorically as a commissioner. Staying up here, listening to my community. If you remember, if you're my age, I'm 70 years old, there was a circuit called vaudeville. And in the vaudeville circuit, you had actors and you had entertainers who would, if they were bombing and their act was not up to par and people were throwing vegetables at them, from the left of the stage came what? And took them right off the stage. I understand and I get it because I was elected to represent. And I'm not about to get hooked off the stage. That's not my intent. So now I'm going to address the developer. You are on the hook. You're on the hook to come back with a project, with a development that the community, the voters, if they accept it, fine. If they don't accept it, I have to make the decision. I can't speak for my other commissioners. I will make the appropriate decision. Because the bottom line is there are 1,500 hooks. Now I'm talking about emails and petition signatures. 1,500 that I'm paying attention to, and those 1,500 signatures can hook me right off this dais. So with that, I tell and I hope that the developer can come back with something that's substantial in nature, that's approved by the residents and this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Boone. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Phillips.
So the only two Phillipses I'm related to that live in Huntersville are my mom and dad, and if they owned a golf course, I would be very grateful, but unfortunately they don't. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be sitting up here. I'd probably live on a yacht or do something really far more exciting than raise chickens and be a commissioner. I say that because this is starting to get very personal, and I think that's not good for anybody. But I get it being personal. I am the only native sitting up here, and I say that because I remember when there was no Burkdale. I remember when that was a farm. I remember when the only Target we could go to was down in Charlotte, and that was like the biggest birthday treat to turn 7 and get to go to Target in Charlotte. I don't know where I stand with Burkdale, but I can't make a darn decision if I can't see the full plan, and I'm not doing my job if I don't support getting to see these changes. And I don't know if they're throwing unicorns and rainbows at us, or something real, but I think it's worth us doing our jobs to be able to look at it and then go from there. This isn't North State, and I hated North State, and this guy and I, we were 2 of 6 against that project. We've seen the worst of it. But the thing is, we have been through really bad times, and what that's done is make our eyes sharper to look for defects and things that are going to screw over the citizens, and I know that's a bad word, but I mean, really, like, I care about this community more than I care about anything. Like, I have no personal life because everything I do is for the betterment of my town and my community. I want this to be a place that my niece doesn't want to move from, and I get your passion. I started out as an activist, and the whole reason I'm sitting up here is because I got mad over the toll roads and got the same people out of office whose seats I'm taking now. So I take this community seriously, and I love Huntersville, and I want to grow old here. So saying, yes, we want to defer this isn't about, heck yeah, I'm pro Burkdale. It's about, heck yeah, I want to be able to do the due diligence for my people and my community to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I'm telling you, sitting here and taking a beating is not a good time. And I do appreciate your passion, and I feel it. And God bless you all for sticking it out this long, because this has been a doozy. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Commissioner Boone.
Two things. First of all, remind me never to follow Commissioner Phillips. Commissioner Kidwell said something that, yes, we are listening. It might not go unnoticed, but I know I am. We got a couple things going on here. This deferring it, the way I look at it, it's two deferments. One going from this month to next month, and then here comes some changes that some of us don't know about, just happened today. So what does that mean? Then I got to look at this as a commissioner for all the developers that are coming to Huntersville, that if we say no to this deferment, what is that message that is sent out to everybody who's doing the right thing and listening to the community and making a good product? We don't know what North American Properties' new program looks like. Some people do. I think I'm going to give them the opportunity to show us a product that I would be proud to vote for and you would be proud to support. Now, if we get something up here in 30 days and it doesn't look like this, I hope that you'll have an opportunity to look at these plans and go through them and come back and tell us what you think. And then we will be prepared to vote on this. But right now, I'm going to vote to defer this till next month.
And Commissioner Kovacs.
For clarity's sake, because my brain can't comprehend all this right now. I mean, it can, it's just I'm frustrated. Ms. Sloop, is it your legal opinion that we cannot deny the deferment tonight and vote on the project as is tonight, and then allow the applicant to resubmit if it did not pass, allow the applicant to resubmit a full plan if that did not pass?
No, the town board, on its own prerogative, can vote to deny the application tonight.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? The one thing that I'm going to say is that this board is working diligently to find common ground that meets the needs of our community as a whole, while still understanding that we have a landowner that wants to expand their business. Their job, all 6 of them, their job is to find balance to that. Their job is to figure out what is in the best interest of the whole. I want to personally thank each and every one of them because they're doing their job. And I know it's not easy with the emails and with some of the rhetoric that is happening within our community. This isn't personal. This is about, I say it's not personal. This is about our whole. It's about each and every one of us and how our community is going to continue to grow and be successful. So we can't allow ourselves to get personal. What we have to do is allow ourselves to be open and have honest conversation. That's where solutions are found. And again, I want to commend the board for continuing to work with all sides so that there's an understanding of what's being proposed. With that, if there's not any other comment, there is a motion on the floor and a second to continue this discussion to February the 6th that would allow the developer to bring back a final design February the 6th. Correct. Did I state your motion clearly? Okay, and there was a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And those opposed? It was a 4-2 vote. This will be brought back, Mr. Richards, so we will see you on February the 6th,
Yes, ma'am.
along with a new plan. Correct. Okay. Thank you. We will now move to item 10B. Actually, we're going to take a minute and allow everyone to quietly leave, and then we will start right back up. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get back to business. Looks like majority has vacated the chambers. The next item is 10B. This is to adopt a resolution to approve a contract with Alta Planning and Design for RAISE Grant Writing Services. Ms. Maloney. Good evening.
Mayor Bales, Commissioners. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight before you for the first time as the transportation planner for the town. I'm Heather Maloney. I was hired in August hold on, let me figure out this. Oh wait, where are my slides?
Yeah, there's no supporting information. Oh, wait. Here we go. Nope.
Nope, keep going backwards. You've gone forward.
There's no supporting information.
Oh, it's not on the slides, so it's just the resolutions in front of us.
Oh, you didn't get the slides that I dropped into the folder? Oh well, all right, well. I'm here to ask for approval for grant writing services from Alta Planning and Design. I was hired with the charge of helping to advance the vision of our 2040 community plan to see Huntersville as the most livable community in North Carolina, rather, and to apply the principles outlined in that community plan of pursuing multimodal connectivity through street improvements, sidewalk projects, and continued construction of our greenway network. For the past several months, I've been meeting with the Transportation Coordinating Group to help identify funding streams to advance some of our priority projects. And through that, we've identified the RAISE grant, the federal RAISE grant program. In the past few months, we've been meeting and coordinating, identifying projects that might be competitive for this RAISE grant. The RAISE grant funds roadway, highway, and bridge projects, as well as non-motorized projects. There's a minimum grant request of $5 million and a maximum of $25 million. There's also a 20% match requirement and a required cost-benefit analysis. And this grant application is due at the end of February 28th. I've reached out to several different consulting firms to solicit their help in putting together an application package. I reached out to 3 different firms, got a response from 2 different firms, one of which was able to provide the grant application package for a fee. The other firm that returned our request came back with a package for the entire grant application and the cost-benefit analysis. So the $65,000 request that is before you is to go with the second firm that can complete an entire grant application package and the cost-benefit analysis. The project that we've identified is a side path along Church Street from Delwood Drive north to Huntersville Concord Road. This is an extension of the side path and Church Street extension project that is already funded through the CIP in fiscal years 2022, 23, and 24. The firm that we've identified has suggested that we use that CIP funding of $2.38 million in fiscal years 23 and 24 as our local match to leverage another $7.89 million to complete the rest of the project, which is a side path on Church Street, as I described, north of Delwood Street, and then a sidewalk on Delwood and a side path on Holbrook Street to complete connectivity to the nearby neighborhoods and parks. So tonight, we have a resolution to request unallocated interest income for $65,000 to contract with Alta Planning and Design to complete the grant application and cost-benefit analysis.
Is there a motion?
I have a motion, but I also have some.
We'll do the motion in a second, and then we'll discuss.
Okay. Motion to adopt a resolution to approve contract with Alta Planning and Design for the RAISE grant writing services.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Commissioner Boone. Now we'll open it up for discussion. Commissioner Kidwell.
Heather, thank you for speaking up here. And if we can make sure the presentation that you dropped off in someone's mailbox gets to the rest of the board, that would be very helpful. 2 things. Talk difference between a sidewalk and a side path.
Sure.
Is one aspect. And then I think the one thing that when we talked about this at the Transportation Committee meeting here, the cost-benefit analysis that the RAISE grant requires. It's a little bit more in-depth than just applying for a grant.
Right.
There has to be, and we're looking at 2 different areas, I believe. We're looking at the rural and suburban on the utilizing the RAISE grant.
So there's 2 different criteria for the grant, depending on whether you're in an urbanized area or rural. This project does fall mostly within the urbanized area, the Charlotte urbanized area, which Huntersville is a part of. And as such, we're required to have the 20% match. If we had chosen a rural project, there isn't a match requirement, but this particular project does fall within that urbanized area. The cost-benefit analysis is required of any project, whether it's rural or urban. And it's a pretty detailed cost-benefit analysis that's beyond the capabilities of our department or the engineers department. Alta Planning and Design has a lot of experience with this and has a proprietary cost-benefit analysis that meets all the federal grant requirements. And they've also successfully applied to several similar bike and pedestrian greenway projects in the state and South Carolina, if not elsewhere. Your first question was regarding sidewalks and side paths. They're essentially the same facility, only wider. A sidewalk is designed to serve pedestrians only, and a side path is designed to serve both bicyclists and pedestrians. So it's a wider facility, but otherwise looks exactly the same. And it's called a side path because it usually runs along a roadway as opposed to a greenway that's in its own right-of-way, along a creek, for instance.
We'll open it up for any other questions. Commissioner Kovacs.
Curiosity's sake, what was the price for the first firm?
The first firm was a $20,000 grant fee, but would have only been part of the grant application and would not have included the cost-benefit analysis. So we would have had to find a separate firm to help complete that.
And this company feels that they have enough time, and you said February 28th is when it's due?
Correct, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Commissioner Phillips.
So, out of sheer principle, I'm gonna be voting against these because I had asked for the supporting documents prior, and I feel like I'm not doing my job if I don't have what I asked for before I vote. So it's nothing personal against you, but I just spent Friday talking to grant writers, so I understand where you're coming from, but
Right.
yeah, I just wanted to see it in the agenda or on paper, do it prior to this. So I appreciate all the work you've done because this is not easy work.
My apologies.
Oh, you're fine. It happened.
Commissioner Partee.
Overall, for $65,000, what's our return on the investment?
So for a $65,000 investment, we are leveraging our already allocated CIP of funding for $2.38 million into $7.89 million federal funding. So for $65,000 investment, we get to fund a $10 million, close to $11 million project. Thank you.
Commissioner Kovacs.
Sorry, you can see what I'm doing. Which side of the road are we talking both sides of the road?
No, not on the railroad side.
On the other side? I was
So
trying to
this
see
is-
how that fits into the downtown.
Sure,
proposed
this
plan.
is a project that's been outlined and recommended as part of the Mooresville to Charlotte plan, which has now been rebranded as the SEAM, as well as the Carolina Thread Trail, Greenway alignment, our bicycle plan from 2020, as well as carried forward in the downtown plan and 2040 community plan.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, there is a motion and there is a second. All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion carries. We now move to item 10C.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is the budget amendment for the RAISE grant application for the consultant to spend the $65,000. Is there a motion? Commissioner Kidwell.
Motion to approve budget amendment in unallocated interest income 103, parentheses 103,600.999, in the amount of $65,000 to the Planning Department Contract Services, parentheses 104,800.0314, parentheses, for a consultant to assist in the RAISE grant application.
There's a motion. All right, and I will take Commissioner Boone as the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right. We'll now move to item 10D. Mr. Fox, this is the future expansion of Public Works facility property purchase agreement.
That's correct, thank you. The parcel that we're looking for is located at 11835 Rainbow Church Road. It's currently immediately adjacent to our current Public Works facility. It's about 5.7, a little over 5.7 acres that would allow us to have room to expand. Any of you guys who've been and visited our site, you know that we're kind of jammed in there, and it's getting worse and worse. So we bring this before you tonight and be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Kidwell.
Mr. Fox, I just want to say thank you for keeping me informed this time. Last time I made a motion for this thing to be pulled off the consent and move forward, and I got the rug yanked up underneath my feet because of some circumstances that was not known about. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. And by the way, I've been over to Public Works. You got more room over there you know what to do with. I mean, I saw at least 3 parking spaces.
At least, yes, sir.
At least 3, yeah. Is there a motion? Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Boone.
I would like to make a motion, motion to approve Resolution R 2023-3 and the purchase agreement for the acquisition of the necessary property as described on Exhibit A of the Resolution R 2023-3. The town manager, acting on the advice of council, is authorized to take actions necessary to carry out the provision of the Resolution R 2023-3 and to execute the purchase agreement.
Second.
There's a motion and there is a second. Any additional discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, quick question. There is property that the police department uses at Public Works. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir. So yeah, our current Public Works facility is shared by Parks and Rec Maintenance, Public Works, and there now is a function of the police department there as well. They will have a storage facility, an evidence storage facility.
So you're a catch-all for the entire town? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome, Mr. Fox. You can spread out a little bit now. The next item on the agenda is item 10E. Is there a motion? This is for Gibson Park Drive Phase 2 property acquisition.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to make a motion to continue this until our February 6th meeting. On that date, new plans will be submitted, which will allow for a deferral to March 20th.
Second.
Include the time and the location?
Oh, Huntersville Town Hall, 6 p.m.
Still second.
There's a motion and there is a second. Thank you, Commissioner Munger. Any additional discussion? Commissioner Kidwell.
Yes, Mr. Trott, if you don't mind. Tonight, Mr. Holbrook's expressed to us that he had not heard back from our vendor since December 13th. I think it's a disservice to not only these landowners, but to our staff and this board if we're getting inaccurate and incomplete information from our vendors. If you could look into that to figure out why it happened, what happened, and what steps they're taking to make sure something like that does not occur in the future, that would be appreciative.
Okay, sure.
There's a motion. Commissioner Munger.
Kind of following up that, I just want to personally apologize to you, Mr. Holbrook, for what you've gone through in this experience. It's not typical, and I also want to apologize that you actually sat here through everything just to hear this. Gentlemen, you're awesome.
There is a motion and there is a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. We will now move to mayor and commissioner reports. And tonight we'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Phillips.
No update at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Boone. Commissioner Kovacs.
Ditto.
Ooh, now that one caught me off guard. Commissioner Kidwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple things. I did reach out to NCDOT regarding the Highway 73 Super Street concept and the Gilead Beatties Ford Road project. I've included town staff on the email and copied all my fellow commissioners on separate emails so they have that information. As mentioned earlier, my question to staff is my hope that we have a public meeting at the water plant off of Babe Stillwell Road at some point in the very near future with NCDOT. CRTPO will meet next week on the 25th at 6 p.m. Just so you know out there in the public, if you are not doing anything at that point, we do have public comment period at CRTPO. We have not had anybody come speak on anything over the past year, so I'm inviting anybody who wants to come tell us about your dog. Do anything. Just come to CRTPO and at least sit in the audience and hear about all the wonderful things that are going on down there with roadways.
Thank you, Commissioner Kidwell. Commissioner Partee?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I want to just give a shout out to Michael Connor, who is also a lecturer at the Hugh Torrance House and Store. He gave a great rendition of Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech Sunday, and I had told him that, he informed me that starting February 19th, they will start conducting tours on Sunday at the Hugh Torrance House and Store from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Also, Parks and Recreation Commission will meet on this Wednesday, January 18th, at 6:30 at the Arts and Cultural Center. As always, I will advocate for gun safety, especially in homes where guns are stored and children are present. Accidental and intentional discharge causes serious injury and death. The Huntersville Police Department has free gun safety locks, which people have been reaching out to me for. Organizations, individuals can contact me or the police department. I'm at dpartee@huntersville.org. Let's be child safe. That's all I have, Mayor.
Commissioner Munger.
So I have a couple things. The Public Arts Commission will be meeting tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. in the rotunda of the town center. The next item you're all going to want to pay very careful attention to, please. On tomorrow night at 7 p.m., CMS will be holding a community engagement session about the comprehensive plan at North Mecklenburg High School, 11201 Old Statesville Road, Huntersville. Hear about and provide input on the updated draft of CMS's capital investment plan. This plan includes projects that CMS is considering as it strives to meet district needs. All of this relates to a possible $2.9 billion bond that would come up for a public vote this November. To be clear, I do not have any specifics as to which facilities will or will not be included, but I do believe it will be worth your time to attend if you have the opportunity. Also want to quickly, I got an email earlier today, Pottstown Community Monthly Meeting is Thursday, January 26th at 5:30 p.m., 508 Delwood Drive. And last but not least, as always, if you have the opportunity to give, please consider supporting our local nonprofits. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Munger. Could you repeat what time that meeting starts with CMS tomorrow?
CMS meeting is at 7 p.m. tomorrow night at North Mech High School, which is 11201 Old Statesville Road.
Thank you for reiterating that. I'll make sure that I get that on my calendar. So a couple of things. The MTC meeting has been moved to January the 31st, so I will be going down then to participate in that board meeting. But also, we're in the process of working through a request from the MTC to do some tours regarding the Charlotte Transit Center and the Center City alignment of the Silver Line. And just trying to understand the modifications that CATS is looking to make with the transit center and how it all integrates, and then how ultimately it affects our residents who either take the bus down or in the future have the potential to take the red line if that ever actually materializes, and where it goes into their into the transit center as a whole. And just trying to look at it, I think in my conversations with folks in the region, it's taking a look at it holistically, not just how it benefits Charlotte, but how it does benefit everyone else as well and how it all integrates. So I was pleased to see that other mayors and county leaders are interested in how that all works together. So that is upcoming, and I'll give you an update on that if and when it happens. And then from an EDC perspective, the EDC is currently working on 34 active projects. 26 of those projects are Huntersville site or building submitted projects. 2 Huntersville project announcements are expected soon. And then the last but not least, the EDC is presenting at the North Carolina EDA Emerging Executive Conference in early February. So hopefully we will see some exciting news of new business moving into Huntersville shortly. Because if they put it on paper for me to put out there, I'm hopeful there. The last thing that I want to bring to residents' attention is something that's occurring at Woodlawn School just north of Davidson on March the 26th. They are holding a STEAM Fest, and that is for specifically for grades K through 12. But they're honing in on that K-8, a lot of the activities that they will, hands-on activities. So they have reached out and said, please encourage your residents and kids and families to come up and participate in this event. And so I told them I would share this out there. It's all STEAM related, so science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And it's an opportunity for us to come together and bring our kids. And the other cool thing about this is that it's becoming more of a regional fest. And so they're expecting close to 2,000 folks to come out for this event. And hopefully we can in the future, maybe we figure out a way to do some type of a really cool competition between public and private and charter schools that all sit around STEAM or STEM related activities and do some type of a competition. Just a thought for in the future. But with that, last thing I want to remind everyone, yet again, this Thursday, community engagement at Lowe's Foods. Come out and see us, have a piece of cake, and talk with and engage with not only our 150th, but I'm sure the town board will be filtering in and out. It is a drop-in event. I too will be there, so come out and see us and chat with us, and we look forward to seeing you there. Is there anything else, commissioners? We're eyeballing.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Yeah,
Hold
okay,
on.
never mind. No, we're good, we're good.
Okay, there's a motion and there is a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Good night, Huntersville.